Well, boys, it's finally happened. Sure looks like the glider kit is dead in the water. Let's review for a minute for the new guys what a glider kit or what a rolling glider kit really is. It's basically an entire truck, transmission, rear ends, axles, everything. Everything except an engine. That's a rolling glider kit, and what glider guys would do was buy a brand new glider kit, a brand new truck essentially with no engine, rebuild an older engine that had been very reliable, put it in this brand new rolling glider kit, and go back to work and not have to worry about breakdowns from these emission engines. And it was a good system, a good functioning system, and it looks like that's finally coming to an end. I was talking to Fitzgerald Gliders the other day, called them up, and they broke the news to me saying that the problem now is that the big truck manufacturers like Peterbilt, Kenworth, and Freightliner just aren't going to make glider kits, rolling glider kits anymore, because the EPA restricted them to 300 units a year, and the big trucking companies looked at that and decided it wasn't worth their while for 300 measly units a year to keep rolling glider kits in production. Basically, it's not worth their money. It's not worth their while. So they're discontinuing building rolling glider kits. And that's, that leaves us now for companies that require reliability, like produce haulers, for instance. You can't have downtime with produce on because the load goes stale, the load goes bad. So this is it's a gut punch to the trucking industry. It's a gut punch to glider companies like Fitzgerald. It's a gut punch to companies that need good, reliable equipment, and it's a gut punch to the single owner operator as well, because all sorts of single guys can't afford downtime, and they can't afford to bet the farm on these emissions engines. This will probably force a whole lot of owner operators out of business. They may retire now because of this, because there's no point in going to California, putting on a $60,000 load of strawberries and having the truck break down for a few days and the berries go bad and having a huge insurance claim. It's just not worth the risk. It's one thing if it's general freight, but if it's a perishable commodity, it's not worth the risk. So that's, it's too bad. The writing's been on the wall for some time now, and guys like Fitzgerald took up the battle. They fought a good, hard legal battle to try to keep these glider kits in production, but like I say, the writing was on the wall. At the end of the day, the EPA is going to win this one too. It's another nail in the coffin for old school long hood trucks. And this apparently becomes mandate or regulation July 1st of this year. So I couldn't even order an incoming glider kit from Fitzgerald. They've just stopped production because they can't get the material. They can't get these rolling gliders. It's too bad. The nature of business is that business is always changing. That's just the nature of the beast. And here's something now that's changed, and don't get me wrong, I'm a tree hugging guy. I believe strongly in clean air and clean water, but I think this mandate was rushed upon us before the engineers really had time to work through the problems. And where it's left us, that they've mandated these emissions trucks that really aren't reliable. I think if the engineers had been given a better time frame with which to meet this mandate, they could have accomplished the task. And I'm sure that, eventually they will accomplish the task. But in the meantime, the trucking industry is going to suffer a huge blow by having to buy these emissions engines. They're better than they were, but they still got a lot of bugs in them. And let's not forget that the DEF fluid and cold weather just don't get along. And these engines need this DEF fluid to function. So I think they've rushed into this legislation too quickly, but this is where we are now. So kind of a sad day for the trucking industry and for the owner operators. So that was kind of a grim story on glider kits. So to lighten the mood a little, I have a story. Many years ago, I was in LA, I was in Ontario, and this is back before cell phones or anything like that. So I got into LA, and I went into Ontario into the 76, shows you how long ago this was. And everybody back then carried rolls of change because they had to use payphones to call for directions or to call customers or anything like that. So I'd been in the 76 and I had LTL on. I was delivering dry freight before I went up to load produce in Salinas. And I'd come out of the 76, and I was going up over the overpass, and I realized that there was one more customer that I hadn't called yet for directions. Back then payphones were kind of hard to find when you were driving a big truck, so I thought, hell, I better spin around and go back to the 76 and make another phone call, find out where this guy is, this customer I got to go to. So I was already on the overpass. I wanted to spin around, go back down to the 76. So on the other side of the overpass in Ontario back then, there was kind of a dumpy old little truck stop. It was a gravel parking lot with potholes, no payphones of course. But I decided I was going to circle through this old dumpy truck stop and go back over to the 76. So I creep into this parking lot because I don't want to bottom out, and I'm slowly creeping through. I don't want to raise the dust. I'm trying to turn around without hitting any potholes or anything like that. So I'm going so slowly. As I'm entering the parking lot, I can see there, and this is like 9 o'clock in the morning, and there are some leftover ladies of the night, or lot lizards, if you want, hanging around in this old truck stop parking lot. And I'm creeping through, going really slowly, and sure enough, doesn't one of these girls hop up on the battery box, and I've got my window down because it's already warm in LA, and I'm looking for potholes and stuff like that. She grabs the mirror arm, she's standing on the battery box. She goes, "You're from Ontario." I said, "Yep," and she's seen the license plate. And now I'm going to change the names to protect the innocent here. But she goes, "Oh, you're from Ontario. Do you know Glenn?" And I thought, oh Lord, you know, what are the odds? 2,500 miles from home, in a city of 3 million people, and she's asking me about a guy that I know, a friend of mine actually, that I work with. And what are the odds? And I'm thinking, oh my God, how could this lot lizard possibly know my buddy? And I'm thinking, oh, so I admit to her, yes, that I do, but please get off the battery box because I got to get out of here. So she hops off the battery box. I continue my U-turn, get back down to the 76, make my phone call, and I'm on my way. So, a few trips later, I run into Glenn going the other way. And we just happened to land for coffee at the same time in the same truck stop. And so I relay this story to him. I say, you know, I was spinning around in that dumpy old place in Ontario, and this lot lizard hopped on my battery box and asked if I knew you. And he goes, his first reaction is, "What did she look like?" I said, "Well, she's about 6 foot tall with red hair." And he goes, "Oh, that's Ginger." And I thought, oh my God, he does know her. And I didn't know what to say. I couldn't believe it. We wrapped up our conversation, and I headed down the road with my head hanging down. It was an embarrassing situation. And the fact that he even knew her, I thought, man. And I thought, you know, I probably could have described half a dozen other lot lizards in the lot, and he might have known all of them as well. I just didn't want to know, and I didn't want to find out. So that's my story, and I just kept trucking. Take care, boys. Keep the rubber side down. I'll see you safely on the back haul.